Welcome to the Dean's Leadership Circle Lunch. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Lauren Lindstrom, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Dean of the School of Education right here at UC Davis. I want to thank you for being here today, and I want to start with this. Those of you that are members of the Dean's Leadership Circle, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. You are so important to what we do as a School of Education. You truly make a difference. So let me just take a moment to acknowledge the context that we are living in, all of us. When you think about the last 2 years, I know all of you have faced many challenges, whether that's health or mental health or isolation or family. There's so much that we've lived through. And when I thought about it, the pandemic really impacted every single aspect of our school. Sometimes when you face a challenge, it's a little bit like you can carve it off and say, well, this part's okay, but this part we have to work on. Well, during the last 2 years, we've had to really radically rethink how we teach, how we do research, how we do community service, every single aspect. And there have been ups and downs, as you know. Last year, we really fully remotely, probably like many of you. This academic year, the idea was to be back in person. We have primarily been back in person, but with mixtures of hybrid and remote, depending on what's happening with the pandemic. So we have had to pivot and learn a lot in these last 2 years. And as I've thought about it, I really realized that COVID, physically separated us, but it did not divide us. It did not divide us in terms of our mission as a School of Education. I think we're even clearer about the importance of education, the need for education, the power of our work to really change lives. So if anything, what I've seen in the last 2 years in terms of how we've been able to move forward, our faculty have moved to be researching the impact of the pandemic on teaching, on learning, on students, on leadership. And that work will continue, I think, for many, many years to come. Our students, some of you are sitting with us today, they really had to stretch to think about how to teach in different ways, how to learn in different ways. Our centers, as you'll hear later from Carlos, continued their work, amazing work, and built new partnerships even during this time. And our donors, all of you, really stepped up and supported important work and even emergency student needs. I mean, we had students at the beginning of the pandemic that didn't have access to internet or laptops. And it was through a really generous donation that I was able to funnel money that way and keep students in school and continuing to learn and grow. So we're very appreciative of that. And I'm proud, again, of what our school's been able to do in these 2 years. So that's a little bit of reflection back. Now, looking forward, I just want to tell you about 3 things that I'm excited about. And I think it's emblematic, really, of the partnerships that we have as a school. I said in my very first talk as dean, actually in this very spot, some of you were there, I talked about partnerships and how important that was to our school. Let me just tell you about 3. So one that you have probably heard about is our really important partnership at Aggie Square. That is our new innovation entrepreneurial hub in Sacramento, led by Chancellor Gary May and Mayor Darrell Steinberger. It's really a partnership between the university, industry, and the community. We just had a groundbreaking ceremony in February for the Aggie Square buildings, beautiful classrooms, laboratory space. It's going to be amazing. I understand that we'll be able to move into some of those buildings as soon as December of 2024. That's what they said at the groundbreaking, so we'll watch. We'll see if that happens. I believe it, and I'm excited. I'm excited to say that the School of Education, even before we broke ground and even before we entered those spaces, has really been part of the planning for it. We offered a couple courses, including a Transformative Justice Studies course led by Maisha and Tori Wynn. Margarita Jimenez Silva is right here, led a course on multilingual education for California in Sacramento, even before we had a building. So Aggie Square is exciting. Watch for more news on that. Second thing I want to mention is another brand new initiative. We're calling it Sacramento Valley College Core. That is a partnership between UC Davis, also includes Sacramento State, Sacramento City College, and Woodland Community College. This is part of a larger statewide initiative that they're calling Californians for All College Core, and it's really focused on access and affordability for college. So we're going to be serving undergraduate students who are either low income or DACA students who typically don't have access to these internships in the community. So students will have paid internships in 3 different areas: food insecurity, climate action, and K-12 education. So the state really identified that coming out of the pandemic, those are areas we want to invest in. And so we're going to have students working in those areas, getting credit, also getting paid so that they can complete their college education. So it's a wonderful new partnership. I'll mention Carlos Mccauley again, who's been part of that planning and implementation team. We hope to have students placed as soon as this fall. We're getting off the ground really quickly with this College Core program. The last partnership I'll mention, some of you know of, is really long-standing on our campus, and that's with Chicano Studies, part of our Letters and Sciences department here. We are hiring faculty in coordination with Chicano Studies to focus uniquely on the needs of Latinx youth in California schools, and they're going to be engaged in community and school research in partnership. So I was supposed to hire one faculty, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to hire two. I actually, over the weekend, was in contact with these our finalists, and so I'll be really excited to introduce you to two really strong, really innovative faculty who, again, are going to work in partnership with Chicano Studies and build our research in those areas. So let me just wrap up by coming back to really the reason why we're here. And the reason why we're here is to reflect on your generosity, your dedication. All of you care deeply about education, and you show it in a lot of different ways, through your philanthropy, through your volunteering, through your connections with all of us. So, and that plays out in a lot of different ways. Our board members have been really involved over the last year and a half in helping renovate and re-energize our beautiful classrooms. You've invested in our research centers, our Transformative Justice Center, our Citizen Science Center. We have folks that have supported student programs like Words Take Wing. So we have also have a number of new scholarships during this time, and that's something I'm really, really grateful for. When I think about students who want to become a teacher, we don't want to turn anybody away. So I'm really happy to say we have two new endowed scholarships that focus on foster youth, people that have been in foster care and now are coming to school to be teachers. And we have 4 new scholarships that are specifically for first-generation students. So all of our students are unique. They all have a story, and you're supporting them. You're supporting them to become teachers and leaders in education. Individually, collectively, those gifts can change lives, and it certainly is an honor to serve beside you, alongside people that really want to make a difference. So thank you for your commitment to our School of Education. Thank you for your commitment to educators and educational leaders. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Carlos Mccauley. I told him the other day that one of the best things I've done as dean is hire Dr. Carlos Mccauley. He is our brand new, actually not brand new anymore, brand new to this group. 2.5 years now he's worked with us as a director of research and partnerships, and also the executive director of our Reed Center. Prior to that, Carlos was the director of the Center on School Turnaround at West End, where he worked with low-performing schools. And prior to that, from 2007 to 2014, he was at the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C. So he really comes to us with this deep knowledge of policy, systems, understanding educational change. We've been really lucky to have him in this role, overseeing all of our research centers and really helping to grow and build new partnerships. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Carlos Mccauley.
Good afternoon, everyone. It depends on the audience sometimes, Dean Lindstrom. I don't mention the U.S. Department of Education. I've been in environments where that's received a boo, so thanks. And it's good to see everyone. Good volunteer leaders, alumni, faculty, staff, my colleagues as well. And of course, I can't forget students. It's just a pleasure to be here and to be a part of this conversation. This is my first Dean Luncheon, so I have enjoyed the opportunity to not only be a part of the planning, but just to kind of hear more about the people that were attending. And so it's been really exciting to be here today and share some of the work that's taking place across the center. I think I have probably the longest title you will likely see from our speakers today, but as the Director of Research and Partnerships and the Executive Director for READ, I'll just give the acronym of READ, it allows me to work across staff and faculty and centers, but also externally, and internally across campus, which is really exciting. I share with Dean Lindstrom pretty regularly. I enter all conversations as a learner. And as a learner, I'm oftentimes the meeting runs over because I have so many questions. But today, I've had a chance to just sit with colleagues today and hear more about the beginning of the Shakespeare Center. And so that's one of the things I'll talk about today is some of that work as well. Uh, in my role, I'm fortunate to represent the School of Education, not only here, but also externally. And I get the chance to work with some incredible researchers, incredible practitioners who are leading our research and research and innovation centers as well. The school consists of those 9 centers, and I want to make sure I spend time just naming them. The Wheelhouse Center, which is the Center for Community College Leadership and Research, works with community college presidents across the state of California. This year, they activated an aspiring leaders program where they are actually preparing future community college leaders. And their goal of this work is to increase the minority applicants in leading these institutions, which is really exciting work. The Transformative Justice and Education Center, the TGAE, which works with not only K-12 schools, but university partners all across the country, but has done a lot of work in transforming the culture, not only on this particular campus, but their partners as well, whether that be a school district or an organization, even our Mind Institute and hospitals and work that they've done with those organizations as well. The California Educational Lab, which is another research center, which works mainly with policy, and they've done a lot of work not only in the K-12 policy, but K-16 as well. They are becoming and have become one of the go-to places when we think about policy making across education policy here in California. The Center on Applied Policy and Education, which we affectionately call CAP-ED, which is bringing together superintendents and principals not only in this particular region, but across the state of California. They're meeting not only here locally, but they even have focused work in Southern California as well. And I have to tell you, having attended some of those meetings, particularly during the pandemic, it is an incredible opportunity for me, being an active learner, to go into an environment and really hear from individuals who are on the ground, who are really focusing on problem solving and turning to their colleagues to learn more as well. Then there's the Beta Lab, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Beta Lab, which is focusing on engaging students. And there's some incredible innovative things that Lee Martin and his team does in the Beta Lab that brings together kind of this STEM work with the focus and lens towards our students as well. The Sacramento Area Science Project, which is a collaboration with Sac State and other partners, which is working again on STEM, and really central to that work is the Sacramento region, bringing together teachers, bringing together students from across this region as well. And then, of course, I can't forget the Center on Shakespeare and Diverse Classrooms, which I've volunteered on behalf of the School of Education to sacrifice and go to London with our faculty director. But the work in Shakespeare is actually training and bringing teachers to engage in literature, to engage in the arts and drama, which has just been incredible. We were having this conversation at the table about how students have been engaged in that work prior to the pandemic and how much that has been missed given the last 2 years of the pandemic. And then, of course, which we focus on our research practice partnerships as well. All of this work from all of these centers, and I want to give a plug as well, you have in your packets the reports as well. So I'll talk a little bit about some of this work. It's a labor of love. I share with the group as well. Feel free to order them, ask for more of them. We have many of them. We're going to have them online as well, as you feel free to download them as well. All this work is supported really to look at how do we transform practice across organizations. How do we change mindsets? How do we create opportunities for all students? And all of this work across all of these centers are central to the School of Education's own efforts as it relates to equity. And that's the most exciting thing about this work, is that we are fortunate to not only think about this work in the Sacramento region, which we see the need and see the partnership opportunities, but we're fortunate to think about this work across the state of California, across the country, and internationally as well. This work can't happen without partnerships. And as I look around the room, I see many partners in this room that have played a significant role in helping to advance this work. Our work is central to our own thoughts on what is an effective and transformative partnership. Those partnerships are with K-12 schools, both as we think about local and all across the state of California. They're with other institutions, they're across campus, and then they're with you and they're with students, not only our own students, but students across campus as well. This work can't happen without those partnerships from our standpoint. This is part of central to our core as a school of education. I share this story with Dean Lindstrom all the time. When I was fortunate to come and visit and sit with Dean Lindstrom and learn more about the School of Education, what stuck out to me was the strategic plan. And if you spend time in our School of Education, you'll see that strategic plan placed strategically throughout both floors. But part of that strategic plan not only calls for equity, but it calls for the intentionality of creating partnerships to help drive this work. So it's central to our core belief. We spend a lot of time building and establishing those partnerships. And that played out really well as we think about what has occurred over this past 2 years. I want to share some of the things that our centers have been focused on over this past 2 years in spite of a pandemic. Because of these trusting partnerships that we've established through the School of Education, and when we talk about partnerships, we see it as a two-way street. It's a chance for us not only to share in some of the work we're doing, but it's also a chance for us to be learners as well. As organizations and centers, we are entering this work through the lens of a learner. And we've been able to build off of those trusted relationships to continue to, what we like to think of, have an impact on our region and state and across the country. Some of that work is included through our college opportunities programs, where we have brought together over 7,000 students and providing access to them and information to them that presents the opportunity for them to attend college. These are potential first-generation college students, and this work in itself not only goes from Sacramento, but all the way to the northern part of the state, to Siskiyou County, which borders Oregon as well. It's rural areas as well, and that's been a significant part of this work. And so as the pandemic actually began, many of those school districts and school systems begin to call us. How do we begin to think about technology? Near and dear to heart to Cynthia and her work. We don't have access to that type of technology. How do we begin to engage students? How should we think about professional development? Those were all partnerships that we were able to build on during the time of the pandemic. Some of our other centers began to design and host series for youth, and that was through TJE. So we created online series that engaged youth in an active way. We began to convene through our Wheelhouse, convene those superintendents, those community college presidents. Where are the needs? What should we be thinking about? That work continued. It transformed from in-person to virtual, and that work continued throughout the pandemic. The Beta Lab, I talked about them a little bit, put together designer kits for youth and engaged them actively as well throughout that time. In LA, and Rebecca Ambrose is here as well, we've engaged the Los Angeles Unified School District in a research practice partnership, all designed to work with teachers and coaches to provide support for emergent bilingual students. And we were able to still do this throughout the pandemic, even be able to get through board approval throughout the pandemic as well. We convened superintendents and presidents throughout this time in the pandemic. And those agendas, as you can imagine, was driven by what they were facing throughout the pandemic, as Davis Campbell has had that experience and been a part of that work through CapEd. We've created avenues for not only practitioners, but other researchers to come together throughout this pandemic, and it's been critical to continuing to advance not only the mission of the School of Education, but the mission of these organizations as partners as well. These partnerships, again, wouldn't occur without that commitment by those other entities. And I'll be remiss if I didn't state how important those partnerships are to us as a School of Education. We've been able to look at these partnerships, whether that's through our teacher education program or our research centers, to say that we are in this together. We start from the belief that we can advance further if we do this together. And as we've thought about these partnerships and the work of the School of Education, it is central to our core. It is central to not only our strategic plan, it is central to our belief system. And we've continued to build on those partnerships. And you hear Dean Lindstrom talk about partnerships. You hear me talk about partnerships. And as you dig into the work of our centers and our faculty, you will see more examples of those partnerships that are created. And last but not least, these partnerships wouldn't have been able to take place without you as well. And for that, we are forever grateful. We are grateful for the advice and for the interest and for the commitment that you have shown as well. And being an active partner, we wanted to take time out today to not only acknowledge and share some of the work we're doing, but acknowledge the role that you all have played in helping to shape this work as well. So I want to close with thanking you for these opportunities as well. We continue to learn throughout this work. We continue to learn in partnership with our school systems. We continue to learn in partnership, whether it be our superintendents or our other colleagues across campus, to build on things that you all have helped us establish in the School of Education. And with that, I want to thank you all again for taking the time out to be a part of our School of Education, because we see it as a whole of everyone here being a part of this work. So thank you all very much.
Okay. Just want to start off by saying good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. My name is Fatima Patino, and as stated, I'm a student in the Social Studies Teaching Credential and Master's in Education program, as well as a bilingual authorization candidate. First, I want to start off by thanking all of you for your contributions towards education and investing in our future teachers. Navigating the education system has not been easy. I am the first person in my family not only to graduate from high school, but also from college. The first to pursue a higher education and receiving a bachelor's. And now I'm working towards my master's. Both of my parents are immigrants from Mexico. They never received a formal education further than the 6th grade. Although my parents supported and encouraged my interest in education, when I was younger, saying like, échale ganas, mija, tú sí puedes, try your best, you can do it. The journey to stand here today with you all has been difficult. I always love to say that I'm from a small 12-block town called Chular, located in the Salinas Valley. If you buy strawberries, keep an eye out for a sticker that says Salinas, because I'm highly familiar with those fields, and I'll tell you, those are some of the best strawberries. My mom continues to work seasonally in these fields, actually. When I was in high school, I would ask my mom if I could go to work with her to earn money, but she refused. Tienes que enfocarte en la escuela. You need to focus on school. Because school was a gateway to the opportunities outside the fields. A higher education promised an escape from working under the harsh sun, exposure to pesticides, and increasing back problems. I am proud of my parents' work, but that was not the life they wanted for me. Therefore, I did my best in school. I asked questions during class because I knew my parents would be unable to help me at home. I stayed after school to complete my assignments because there was no space at home with 13 other relatives. I helped tutor others because I was already familiar with explaining concepts to my younger brothers. I carried a lot of responsibilities added onto the fact that my school lacked resources. We had one nurse for the entire district, no paraeducators, limited AP and honors classes, and lack of bilingual teachers for our predominantly Latino community of immigrants and English learners. From a young age, I was given the role of translator. Looking back, I realized how the lack of bilingual teachers added pressure onto me, the student, to fill in those gaps. I was a child. I was still learning English in addition to Spanish. During my fifth grade teacher-student conference, I was translating between my parent and my teacher. And I remember my 5th grade teacher looking at me confused because I had forgotten to translate back into English. I was speaking to her in Spanish. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, no, my bad. But at the same time, I was frustrated. Why couldn't the school have an on-site translator, knowing that most of the parents were native Spanish speakers? As a future teacher, I want to alleviate that pressure and frustration from my students to the best of my ability in order for both parents and students to feel more comfortable in expressing their concerns or questions. As a first-generation student, navigating higher education was even more difficult. Although I was accepted into one of the top universities, UC Berkeley, I was wholly unprepared. Not only was I facing a high learning curve in my classes, but I also had to face the reality that my parents were unable to help me financially. I started working at the dining hall a month into my first year of college. While my roommate was rushing for Greek life, I was coming back home in the evenings to my dorm, tired. Managing classwork and a part-time job at the same time was draining. By the end of my first semester, I was on academic probation. Second semester, I was able to manage my time better, but money was always in the back of my head. How many hours do I need to work in order to save money for the upcoming semester? How much do I need to save for this week, this month? And I realized there was a difference between surviving and thriving. I was stuck on this survival mindset for having to focus on my needs first, rather than just being able to place all my energy into prospering or exploring what higher education had to offer to me beyond attending class. This year, I've been offered the opportunity to thrive versus just survive through your support and contributions. I knew that the Davis Education program will offer me the best resources and support in becoming a teacher. But I also knew that grad school was expensive, especially since grad students don't receive the same financial aid as undergrads. Thankfully, with my scholarship and CalGrad extension, I've been able to cover all of my expenses. If this was not the case, I would have no other option but to postpone my dream of attending Davis and becoming a teacher. I would not be here today if that was the case. At this moment, I would have probably still been working at my summer job at the local movie theaters in order to save money for grad school. Through my financial security, I've been able to thrive by focusing my energy into my student teaching and connecting with my students instead of worrying about rent and groceries. My parents have always stated, "Tú sí puedes, mija." You can do it. And I'm proud to say that I have made it. So, sí se puede. Thank you.